Hello dear friend, you are welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to take my time to explain how the windings of a three-phase motor are connected at the terminal block. Alright, so in a three-phase electric motor, there are three windings. Each winding has a starting point and then a finishing point. So as you can see in this diagram, I have three windings. Each winding is labeled. Winding 1 is labeled U, winding 2 is labeled V, and then winding 3 is labeled W. And you can see that each winding has a starting point and then a finishing point. This is the starting point of this winding, and this is the end. This is the starting point of this winding, and this is the end of that winding. All right, so in a three-phase electric motor, it is the ends and then the beginnings of these windings that are brought out at the terminal block. So if you look at this motor, for instance, you can see that three wires are out at the top, and then three are also out at the down. So actually, at the motor terminal block, those windings at the top can be taken as the starting point, and those at the down can be taken as the finishing point. Or you can take those at the down as the starting point, and then those at the top as the finishing point. All right, so let's look at how the terminal block is labeled or marked, and then we continue to find out why it is so. So as you can see in this picture, this is a typical motor terminal block. And usually the terminal blocks are labeled U, V, W at the top, and then Z, X, Y at the down. So the first question is, why is it not U, V, W at the top, and then X, Y, Z at the down? You could also have the terminals labeled as U1, V1, W1 at the down, and then you have W2, U2, V2 at the top. Again, why is it not W1 to W2, V1 to V2, and W1 to W2? All right. Now let's look at the diagram I have here. Here, the starting point of this winding U will be labeled U1. So this is U1. And then the finishing point of winding U will be labeled U2. Then when we come to winding V, we have V1 as the starting point and then V2 as the finishing point. Then the same way for winding W, we would have W1 as the starting point and then W2 as the finishing point. Okay, now before the three-phase motor works, we want these coils to get energized to produce a rotating magnetic field when the motor windings are connected in either star or delta configuration. All right. In star, L1 connects to U1, L2 connects to V1, L3 connects to W1. Then the finishing point of all the three windings will be bridged together, and that works perfectly for a star configuration. But in delta configuration, each winding must be connected between two different phases. So for coil U to get energized, you will need to connect line 1 and line 2, or line 1 and line 3. If you use line 1 and line 1, this coil will never get energized. In that case, if these are the terminals at the terminal block, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then this is how we are going to connect the windings to these terminals. So U1, V1, W1 will take the supply. Then we would have to connect line 2 to the end of winding U. So we'll have something like this. So when we come to winding V, already we have the starting point of winding V supplied with L2 already. And we need a different phase to connect to the finishing point of winding V for winding V to be able to get energized when the supply is closed. And so in this case, we connect the end of winding V to line 3. So here we would have it like this: V2 to line 3. Okay, and then For coil W to get energized when the three-phase supply is closed, we already have line 3 connecting to the beginning of coil W, but the end is open. And so we have to connect another phase to this coil W. Here, we have to bring line 1 here together with line 3 to energize this our coil. And so we would have to come here to take line 1 to come here. All right. So this is how the connection should be. And so to enable the motor to be easily connected in star and delta configuration, we have to properly arrange the terminals at the terminal block in such a way that we can easily connect the motor in delta configuration and then star configuration. So this is what it actually means. Here you have 1, 2, and then 3. And we can label this U1, V1, and then W1. Then at the down, we will also have 1, 2, 3. All right. So here, we want to arrange these terminals in a way that by just using the same set of strips, we should be able to connect the motor in delta configuration by vertically connecting the links between each two terminals. And then when we want it in star, we can use the same links to just bridge one side of the 3 terminals. Okay, and that is why the terminals are arranged like this at the motor terminal. Here we have coil U, and then here we have coil W. All right, so these are the coils in the motor. So we have U1, and then U2. We have V1, and then V2, and then we have W1, and then W2. So these are in the motor, and then we have to extend these wires 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the motor terminals. So here we connect the starting point of coil U to U1 here, and then the finishing point of coil U to U2 here. Then we come to V. The starting point of coil V will connect to terminal V1, and then the finishing point of coil V will connect to terminal V2, like this. Then when we come to coil W, the starting point of coil W will connect to terminal W1, and then the finishing point of coil W will connect to W2 here. So this is how the ends of the various windings are connected outside. So here, U1, W2, V1, U2, W1, V2. Because in delta configuration, we need to supply each coil with 2 different phases. And so in a typical motor terminal marking, you will see the terminals labeled as U1, W2, V1, U2, W1, V2. In case we are connecting this motor in delta, what it simply means is that we are connecting L1 here, then we connect L2 here, and then we connect L3 here. Okay, and so as for star, you only need to bridge the finishing point of all the windings. But in delta, we have to connect U1 to W2 here like this. U1 to W2, V1 to U2, and then W1 to V2, like this. And so what this simply means is that we are connecting L1 to the starting point of winding U and the ending point of winding W. And then we are connecting L2 to the starting point of winding V and then the finishing point of winding U. And then we are connecting L3 to the starting point of winding W and the finishing point of winding V. So you can see that all the coils here have 2 different phases to the starting and the finishing point of each coil. All right. So at the end of the day, you have a terminal marking like this, either U1, W2, V1, U2, W1, V2, or UZ, VX, and then WY, or A1, C2, B1, A2, C1, B2. So from the various explanations, you see that for delta connection, each winding must be connected across two phases. And that's why the terminals must be marked or labeled the way it is so that it will be easy for the motor to be connected in both star and delta configurations. So with this understanding, even without a terminal marking at the terminal block of a three-phase motor, if you are able to identify the start and the finish for each coil, you can easily arrange the 6 cables at the terminal block correctly, making sure that in delta configuration, each winding is connected between two different phases. Thank you very much for watching. Please, if you like this video, then kindly share and do well to subscribe if you have not yet done that. See you in my next video.